Part 3. Part 3. Part 3. Fundamental rights. Fundamental rights. Fundamental rights. Part 3. The fundamental rights. Under Articles 12 to 35, these articles are known as the fundamental right, as the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights. Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. Part 3 of the Indian Constitution is also known as Magna Carta. Magna Carta. M-A-G-A-N-A-C-A-T. Magna Carta. Part 3 of the Indian Constitution is also known as Magna Carta. Magna Carta of India. Magna Carta of India. Because it describes in details all the granted again लिख दिया GUARANTED granted, all the granted and justifiable rights. Part 3 of the Indian Constitution is also known as Magna Carta of India because it describes in details all the granted and justifiable right. Now question from part 3. The concept of fundamental rights. The concept of fundamental rights have been taken from the USA, United States of America Constitution of USA Constitution. The concept of fundamental rights have been taken from USA Constitution. Yeah. Originally, the fundamental rights from here. Originally, there were seven fundamental rights. There were seven fundamental rights in the Constitution. In the Constitution of India, Originally, there were 7 fundamental rights in the Constitution of India. Constitution of India. They were right to equality, right to equality, right to equality under articles 14, articles 14 to 18, 14 to 18 articles, right to equality, right to freedom, second right to freedom, right to freedoms from articles 19 to 22. Now, the number, the right to exploitation, right to against exploitation, from article 20, from articles 23 to 24, from articles 23 to 24. Right to freedom of religion. Now, fourth number, right to freedom of religion, freedom of religion, right to freedom of religion from articles 25 to 8, 25 to 28. Now fifth number, right to education, right to educational right to cultural, right to cultural education, cultural education, educational cultural educational right, right to cultural education right from articles 29 to 30, right to right to cultural educational right from articles 29 to 30. Now sixth, right to property, right to property, under article 31. Now seventh and last, right to constitutional remedies, right to constitutional remedies, under article 32. There were 7 fundamental rights originally. But in 1978, right to property, was taken out or removed of the fundamental rights and was made. Right to property was made a constitutional right under article 300A under part 12 by the 44th amendment Act 44th Amendment Act 1978. Now at present there are six fundamental. There are six kinds. There are at present there are six kinds of fundamental rights. Six kind of fundamental rights. And now at present there are six kinds of fundamental right. Right to property was removed. Right to property was removed by the 44th Amendment Act in 1978. Right to property in 1978. Now, from now part 3 under article 19. Part 3 under article 19 right to freedom. Article 19 of the Constitution of India, Constitution of India guarantees to the citizens of India six basic freedoms. Six basic freedoms are the freedoms are freedoms are right, freedom of speech, 1 number, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of speech and expression. Second, freedom of assembly, second number, freedom of assembly. Third, freedom of from association, freedom form of associations and unions, freedom of from association and unions. Fourth, freedom of movement, Now fifth number, freedom of residence, and settlement, freedom of residence and settlement. Six and last, freedom of profession, occupation, trade or business, There are 6 basic freedoms. Originally, there were 7 freedoms. Right to freedom of property, has been replaced. Right to freedom of property has been replaced by the 44th Amendment. 44th Amendment Act 1978. Now right to property is a human right. Human right, as well as constitutional right, but it is not a fundamental right, fundamental right. Fundamental right. Originally, there were seven freedoms. Seven freedoms. Right to freedom of property has been replaced by the 44th Amendment Act 1978. Now, right to property is a human right as well as a constitutional right, but it is not a fundamental right. But is not a fundamental right. Part 3, fundamental rights. Fundamental rights. The fundamental rights. Next question from fundamental rights under part 3. Fundamental rights can be suspended Fundamental right can be suspended. Now question from here, exam point of view. Under article 358 when national emergency is proclaimed on the grounds of war or external aggression, the fundamental rights under article 19 are automatically suspended the cost under article 359 all the fundamental rights are suspended during national emergency. But question from here, fundamental rights during national emergency. The The 44th, the important question, exam point of view. The important question, the 44th Amendment Act, 44th Amendment Act 1978, the 44th Amendment Act 1978 prohibits, PROI, prohibits, BITS, prohibits, PROHIBITS, prohibits the suspension of article, the suspension, the prohibits the suspension of article 20, 20 and 21 even during national emergency, even during national emergency. By the 44th Amendment Act 1978, the Article 20 and 21 cannot be suspended during national emergency. The concept of the suspension, the concept of the suspension of the fundamental rights during the emergency, the concept of the suspension of the fundamental rights during emergency means national emergency. The concept is taken from the Germany, from the Constitution of Germany. The concept of the suspension of the fundamental rights during national emergency is taken from the Constitution of Germany. Now, question part 3. Under Article 32, Part 3, under Article 32, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar called Article 32 of the Indian Constitution of the Indian Constitution question, right to constitutional remedies, right to constitutional remedies, remedies, remedies as the heart and heart and soul, heart and soul, heart and soul of the Constitution. Heart and soul of the Constitution. Part 3 under Article 32. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar called Article 32 of the Indian Constitution a right to constitutional remedies as the heart and soul of the Constitution. Heart and soul of the Constitution. Article 32.